Hello and welcome back to Dry Conversations. I'm your host, Whitney Cowell. Joining me today, is Mike Lombard. Hey, Mike.
What's going on? And I could tell you this conversation is going to be anything but dry.
I'm excited about it. We have a lot of similar passions. And so I'm excited to hear your perspective and where you're going. So for anybody that doesn't know who you are, give us a little bit of background, who you are and what you're up to these days.
Absolutely. Really excited for this episode before we get primed off because this is like brand new type of content I've never really jumped in on before. I do have my own podcast, but really it's just related to my own fitness related stuff, helping people and then talking to drivers. And it's more of long form interviews. And this topic doesn't come up too much. And so that's why I'm excited to jump on. But for those who don't know me, my name's Michael Lombard. I've been called Lombard Trucking on the internet since 2010. I'm known at Orange Theory as Coach Lombard. Lombard's way easier. There's too many mics in people's lives, but a little bit of background about me. The reason why I'm so proud of my last name, Lombard, and the reason why I called myself Lombard Trucking on the internet has everything to do with my family's company. My family name goes back over 100 years in the trucking industry. My great grandfather and his brother Nicky and Joe Lombard had started one of the first motor carriers in the country. They used to have 8 horses and 2 carriages, which became a motor carrier in 1923, and they became one of the largest motor carriers in the Northeast. All the way up until the time they were sold in 1984. They had terminals from Baltimore to Maine. My grandfather became an owner of that company, and he's also a driver for that company for 30 years. That was his primary role as an owner. Was he also was the lead guy when it came to the driver? And I've got not only his stories, but stories from countless other people who've worked with him over the years. I had grown up with him. He was my father and his father were both the 2 biggest role models of my life growing up. And, growing up with a guy like my grandfather, there's a reason why I took so much pride in that story, because the original Lombard was like, it started in Waterbury, Connecticut. And it was such a prominent, member and staple of the community. There's a strip mall plaza where HQ used to be, and it's still called Lombard Plaza. And there's Lombard Drive in Prospect, Connecticut. It was such a part of the city's history, especially Italian American history, that I took a lot of pride in it. But a little bit going into my story and kind of my journey and how I came into the industry. I went to high school in Waterbury, Connecticut. I graduated 2008, served in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I was an artillery guy, went to Afghanistan for 7 months on an artillery mission, shot in support of infantry overseas for Operation Enduring Freedom. I got out of the Marines in 2012, and that's also part of the story too. I think back, and even to this day, I still do rack my brain on whether or not that could have been a viable career. I had a lot of great options in front of me, but I was young and ignorant at 22, kind of not thinking about the ideas of career, and friends I had deployed with had gotten out. And so I made the decision to get out. I used my GI Bill to go to school. I went to the University of New Haven. I graduated in 2016. While I was there, played a little bit of lacrosse, club lacrosse, and was in a fraternity there. I graduated in 2016 though, and that's when really a lot of things started to unravel lifestyle wise for me. Lacrosse definitely. I gained weight going into college, but lacrosse kind of helped keep it at bay. I would fluctuate between certain numbers that I was, I guess, confident with, or thought that was the norm. And then in 2016, I ended up working for about a year and a half at Enterprise Rent-A-Car in their management training program. And it was the culture, work hard, play hard. It was a grind, built on, happy hours, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that 26, I was still living as if I was 21, 22. And for most of us, things things kind of go astray with your body and how you adapt to things. And I wasn't living, a healthy lifestyle. I was still trying to live and cling on to this, version of myself that was still in the Marine Corps, but it didn't exist anymore. But I'd gotten into the industry. I had started working for a wholesaler. A friend of mine who I went to school with was telling me about this how his company was hiring, especially for roles in Connecticut. And it was essentially an operations job. It was called, it was referred to as a continuous improvement People who worked in the continuous improvement sector for this wholesaler are essentially developed to be ops managers for stores and warehouses throughout the Northeast. And so that's what I was doing. So I drove a forklift a lot. I did work at our counter. It was a plumbing and heating wholesaler. And we also did our own delivery. So we had a box truck and a rack body truck. I had driven those a couple times. But mainly, I was dealing with drivers pretty often, loading, unloading trucks, especially every Tuesday, Friday. And again, I want to shorten this up because I could blend my whole story with all the topics we're going to cover. But I was offered a promotion at that company, and it didn't go my way. And the reason why it intersects and why I don't want to get off track is because I started a fitness journey while I was at this warehouse in 2018. And part of why I turned down that promotion had everything to do with me starting to advocate for myself, because I knew I kind of started realizing I was worth more than what the job had offered. And so I turned it down, and I was offered the job 5 weeks before my wedding. They wanted me to move. It was very sudden, too fast. And not only that, the salary really wasn't there. Coming back from our honeymoon, my wife and I essentially made a conscious decision that we definitely wanted to change. She was definitely ready to move out of Connecticut. And I think back to getting out of the Marines, if I had stayed in, I'm not sure my girlfriend, now wife at the time, I'm not sure if she would have gone for it. I don't know if she was really ready at that point to have left if we went to California, or if she was going to come down to North Carolina or DC or wherever I ended up. So, I mean, and that's the number one right there. The main foundation of my entire story, a lot of credit is really due to my wife. She's definitely been the number one. And I'm at where I'm at now, without a doubt, because of her and her belief in me. But we made the conscious decision that we were going to get out. She chose Austin, Texas. So, we were supposed to move early 2020. COVID comes around, pushed it back. We moved around Memorial Day, came to Texas, got my CDL. I went over the road for 3 years. While I was over the road, I did end up owning my own truck for about 18 months. Also during those 3 years, I trained and ran in 5 marathons as an over-the-road trucker. I came off the road towards the end of 2023. And while I was still over the road, I had gotten my certification through ACE to be a fitness coach and work in personal training. And also I was offered a job to work as a driver recruiter for Charles Gracie and Hot Seat Services. So I still had a little bit of a foot in the door in the industry, while also leaning into driver health and fitness. I spent all of 2024 working full time in fitness because I was the head coach at 2 studios that I coached at. But all the while, I really kept myself a part of the industry, paying my way to go to events like Broker Carrier Summit. Was able to come to F3 because while I was over the road, I had started a podcast, and I, essentially took on this mission of I want to be the guy to change. I want to be the guy, and not just be the only one. I'm trying to grow a community and a movement off of this. And there's multiple people I work with, like Jeremy Raymer and Mark Monera, to change the culture of health and fitness and trucking, because it's so important. And I think back to my role model. My grandfather would probably still be alive today if it weren't for some of his lifestyle. I mean, he had his first heart attack when he was 50, before I was born. And really, his demise definitely wound up with other complications from heart disease. And he had passed away in 2013. But I mean, his wife, my grandmother, is still alive, and she's strong and as fit as ever. So, and then that leads up to the end of 2024. I get a call from Evan, Shelley, and Reed. I've known Evan since 2023. As soon as he came out on the scene, I really wanted to hear about Truck Parking Club and what they're doing. I've been advocating about issues like truck parking for a while, because it deals with mental health, stress. It also has everything to do with where drivers can possibly work out. I had him on my show, and all while I kept in touch with him, they kept their eyes on me, and they said, hey, we really want you on the team here. And at the beginning of 2024, I joined the team at Truck Parking Club. And now, we're 5 months into the year, and we're rolling strong. There's a lot of good stuff there, but that's the short synopsis of my life. But, and you can take it from here.
Well, first of all, what a rich family history to have in the industry. I think it's amazing knowing how generational this can really be.
I mean, that's how it feels. Like, it feels like it was really, it feels like it was really in my blood. I mean, my dad, he was too young to have driven for Lombard because they had sold right when he was in his early 20s. But my dad also
Mhm.
he works in small parts manufacturing, and he started his own business in 1999. So he does centerless grinding, similar to like CNC machinist work, a little bit dialed back. And I mean, he has small trucks, and I mean, he has to order. I mean, there's shipments that he orders in all the time, and he's getting large orders off of flatbed trucks. I mean, that blue collar mentality is definitely something I was raised with, and it's
Yep.
been passed down. You know, it's a 3 generation old trucking company down to my father, who also worked in a similar type of an adjacent industry. It's still, it's manufacturing. He's a link of the chain of a
Yeah.
lot of stuff that gets made for auto parts, gun manufacturers, and other customers. He's a link in the chain, so it's really kind of just run through my blood. And I even as soon as I got out of the Marines, because I had military licenses, I drove Humvee, MRAP. I drove a MAP-V in Afghanistan for a bit, and I drove bigger trucks in the Marines. And coming out, I was like, why don't I do this? Why don't I get it? But everybody on the outside will talk you out of it. A lot of people say, oh, don't get involved, you don't want to do it. I mean, there's plenty of drivers who say, don't do it or what have you. So I've always had that itch. And then coming to like kind of like a midpoint in my life, turning 30, I was like, if I don't scratch this itch, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
And really jumping in both feet and getting my CDL. I mean, I've said it before, I've tweeted this. Getting my CDL has opened up more doors for me than going to college ever did. And and what it's done is it's given me purpose. As a veteran, there's a lot of veterans in this country, and I don't speak on this enough. And I was just talking to a gentleman on the phone the other day about this. Veterans' biggest struggle, and I feel like veterans struggle from mental health issues because of a lack of purpose. It's similar to Olympians when they get the blues, or I've done 2 full distance Ironman. You get this feeling after a big race where you get the Ironman blues or the Olympic blues. You train so hard for something, and then once it's done, there's this what's next, and veterans feel that way a lot. I mean, especially as a Marine. I mean, you're wearing the greatest uniform on the planet compared to any other service. You have the most official, having the title, you earn the title of Marine, everything that goes into it and that job and who you work with. There's a mission. Like when you're in the military, there's a mission, and there's this, there's a brotherhood aspect. People are relying on you. You're relying on the people around
Yeah.
you. And then all of a sudden, when that ceases to exist, there's this purgatory of trying to figure out what that next mission is and finding that
Yeah.
purpose, because it's not, because unlike the military, purpose isn't given to you. You've kind of got to go out and find it. And it's not an easy thing to do in the corporate world. And there's so many mismatches, but when veterans enter the corporate workforce, and I've talked about this on my show, I mean, veterans for the most part are similar to other demographics. They end up being underpaid because veterans don't ask for raises. They don't ask for promotions. In the military, you're given them. You get that based off of merit and time and service. So veterans have a really great ability at working harder and working harder, longer hours, and not really getting paid for it, thinking that it'll just be noticed, and that's how it's given. And I think that's another struggle that they'll kind of go along with. But again, finding that purpose. I mean, there's, like, when you think about the jobs that are out there, today versus maybe World War II veterans of getting into, and the barriers to entry of starting businesses and getting involved, and with how inflation's worked, and it's just, we're looking at 2 different economies. It's tough for a veteran to enter the workforce. And really, how do you go from being a Marine, especially because we're a country that spent 20 years at war, and so there's been so much, veterans have done so much service and have seen a lot of action over those 20 years, depending on how long they were in. How do you leave that and you go become like, how do you get as fired up to be like a financial advisor, or how do you get fired up to work in a warehouse or work for Enterprise Rent a Car? So like, how are you going to feel just as driven every day? It's a
Yeah.
tougher struggle, and that's definitely something that's important. But yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely runs in my blood.
It does. And that, you hit on a lot of good stuff. I wish that this was like a 3-hour episode because there's a lot to unpack there. But, to the point of it, the blue collar, a lot of that is generational. There are so many things that you've talked on that it gets passed on, right? As somebody who grew up in a blue collar home, like that made sense to me. I've been around construction equipment and machinery my whole life. That's what my dad did. That's what I learned. You know, my cousin now does that, and it makes sense. My husband is a lumberjack. It makes sense. And that's he's the third generation to do that. And so, you know, creating the healthier habits and the healthier lifestyles and the type of advocacy that can help extend the lives of those that are doing these things, because they are cut short. The stress of it, all the way down to like the dietary restrictions. When you're doing certain types of work, you don't have these, you know, readily available meal. Like for me, I worked in an office that was 6 minutes from my apartment. I could just drive home and have a nice meal and then go back over my lunch break. And that's just not attainable to everybody. It's also not the standard. And so there's so many things that we could be doing to you know, to advocate. And I think the Project 61, which I would love to give a spotlight to, of what you're doing right now, is such a good way to support the total well-being, right? Not just focusing on one part, but it is mind, spirit, and body, and those are all connected. And so I love what you've been doing, what you've been putting forward, and in a way, it's paying it forward, but it's also, you know, paying it back, because it's not just impacting you. Like it's a really big movement in the things that we're able to do, which I love. Jeremy and Mark, great pals of mine in the industry, and like you said, it takes a team, right? It takes a village to sound the alarm of this is an issue, and we have solutions. You know, help us make this ripple effect to bring positivity, to bring light, and then to bring some of these solutions that are long lasting.
Absolutely, and a lot of credit to Jeremy and Mark on what they're doing. Sometimes I feel like I think about Lord of the Rings, and like in the Fellowship of the Ring, in the second and third movies, like obviously you have the Fellowship, everybody's all together, and then in the second and third, everybody's kind of split up. Like Frodo and Sam are headed towards Mordor. You got all this stuff going on. Gandalf's going to get everybody to help, bring the riders of Rohan to Helm's Deep. Like I feel like that's me, Jeremy, and Mark, and other people. Like we're just out here spread across the realm. We're spread across Middle Earth, and we're trying to light the torches of Gondor and getting everybody fired up over it. And what they're doing is great. When it comes to my health journey and why I mean the story matters. The story is really important to this, because it's when we think about, because what's tough in the weight loss and the fitness industry is a lot of people always think about getting results over the course of 6 to 8 weeks or 6 months or whatever. We think about these short time frames of trying to do things. But what's really important about the story and where it became a mission has everything to do with 6 years and small attainable habits. And those small attainable habits, again, lead up to me now being voluntarily sober. And so kind of walking through 2018 to 2020, in 2018, I made a conscious decision. I'm going to start exercising again. I had experienced a loss of a good friend I served in Afghanistan with. He passed away. He passed away, suddenly. Overall, an accident is the best way to describe it. Without going, there's no need to go into too much detail, but it had everything to do, from what I had heard from another friend of mine. He was prescribed a medication for sleep. He still used alcohol. So this is probably something he's done before and it's been fine. But again, when you do run that risk, so maybe he thought he was okay to have a few after taking a sleep medication, but apparently it wasn't. And so it's kind of been determined it was an accident, but it's if alcohol wasn't there in the first place, or again, if we address these mental health issues for veterans, would he have been in a better headspace for it? So it took me back. It was a gut check, and I said, I need to do something. I remember looking in the mirror. I saw 278 on the scale. I saw my cheeks. I couldn't really believe what I was looking at. Even my hands, like how they looked. I said, I need to make a change. There was a gym on the way home from the warehouse I worked at, and so no matter what, when I left that warehouse at 5, I had to pass it. There was a 5:30 class, and I lived within 10 minutes of this warehouse. I had to pass it. And there were days I did pass it and felt like such crap. I went back for the 6:30 class. So it was almost like a punishment because then I was staying up later. But I did that. I made like, there was just no excuse. I went. It didn't matter if I dragged my knuckles in there or if I was motivated. I made that habit. What's really great is that place had a coach that befriended me in a way he did not have to. I was just there for the group fitness. It was a CrossFit gym. That was it. But he developed a relationship with me that wasn't just, and obviously this has everything to do with member retention, but he definitely truly cares. Him and I are friends to this day. And he wishes I would move back to Connecticut so I could coach at his gym. I mean, that's how good of friends we became. And then he started kind of steering my decision of what are you eating? Like asking is instead of overloading me too much at once, being like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. He built a relationship with me. We established trust and we became friends. And then he started kind of guiding me. So then I kind of changed and keyed my diet. Kind of so sustaining those habits, lost a decent amount of weight leading up to my wedding. Still not exactly the epitome of health by any stretch of the means. And still, casually drinking a little bit less though, started dialing back. It wasn't every single weekend, three days out of the week. So, I mean, that definitely had an effect on helping me out. I just naturally wanted to cut myself back because I was doing Saturday morning workouts. So I wouldn't drink on a Friday. I would wake up early on a Saturday for a workout and then maybe have some fun on Saturday, on just Saturday, or maybe just Saturday and Sunday. So, but flashing forward to 2020, and this is really, it gets mission driven, is when I'm going over the road, I read the David Goggins book, Can't Hurt Me. And this is the book that turned the key in my brain of you not only just have to be healthy, you should be an outlier. Like the book spoke to me in a way that said, you have to be an outlier. Like you can't, like, you're not just going to ride into obscurity. The book spoke to me in a way that said, it has to be you. If not you, then who?
Right.
And comparing myself to other, because there's other drivers who are fit out there, and I give them a lot of credit. I'm friends with several of them. They, a lot of them are doing it. They like to show, they're all about showing it. Like you can do it, but not the step further of saying we need change in the industry systemically. So much to the point, and to their credit, they don't need to. They're busy. We just need more of them to make content. There doesn't need to be people out there. We don't need to duplicate me or anything. People are on their own mission and paths. That's neither here nor there. But so that's why going over the road, I took habits that I built going into trucking and kept them rolling. So I had gotten an air fryer, I'd gotten a food scale, I had a microwave, I had a fridge, and I used MyFitnessPal, and then I went to the First Form Health and Fitness app, and I just had these numbers I had to hit, the calories and then the protein. I just had to hit those, and then I made sure I got a certain amount of steps. But that book inspired me to really lock in on running. Hated running, did too many sprints in lacrosse. I was so done. The Marine Corps made me hate running. Like everything about running was nothing I wanted to do. But the book told me to do it because running sucks and it's hard. And that's why people don't like it, because it's hard. And it's true. It is very difficult to do. But I knew that going over the road, running was free. You could do it anywhere. It doesn't matter as long as there's land and it's not water. You can essentially, whether it's running in circles or not. And that book, I can't recommend enough. It will toss out every excuse you have when you read Goggins Can't Hurt Me, and that's what it did. And this is where, and also, but going over the road became my first test of going through bouts of being sober for longer than 2 to 3 weeks. I will say the first 3 months of COVID, I also did the reverse. So and this is a story because it's important. So in February of 2020, and I know I'm jumping around because I remember it as I think, but in February of 2020, I woke up with a hangover, and I had just turned 30. I woke up with this hangover, and I didn't even drink that much the night before. We were like having wine at a friend's house, like doing a movie night, game night, like me, my wife, and a friend and a couple. And I remember waking up the next day feeling like I got hit by a dump truck and a dog just took a dump in my mouth. I couldn't believe it. I said, I can't believe it. Is this, having that age, is this what 30 feels like? And I said, I'm going to go a month. I'll go till the St. Patrick's Day parade. I go a month. Parade got canceled because of COVID. So then I just stretched it to Memorial Day. So I took about 3 months off, but I still was like, but when Memorial Day came around, we were moving, I was like, oh, I'm going to go back to it. But that was the first longest gap I took since Afghanistan. But then going back to trucking, now I was regularly doing this gap. I was going out 2, 3, the longest I've ever been out was 7 weeks OTR, but normally on average 2-3 weeks at a clip. give or take 14 to 20-ish days, so to speak. And during that time, I wasn't like, even on a 34-hour reset, I used those resets for my long runs. I would go on a 10 miler on those resets. Like, what was I going to do? Like, was I really going to go out and spend money on a hotel to go spend money at a bar? It didn't make sense,
Right.
even if I was spending weekends over the road. And then kind of flash forward to, and again, the book motivated me. That's why I wanted to run marathons. I wanted to be the trucker who ran marathons, and ended up running. I probably had no need, there was probably no reason to run 5 in such a short amount of time, but I just kept like my brain kept saying, feed more. I just kept like my brain just kept saying, go one more. That's all I kept doing. Coming off the road, I had fear coming off the road. I was more afraid coming off the road than I was being on at that point, because I was so locked into this lifestyle. And now I'm coming back. I live in Austin. I'm coming back to Austin. Austin's a fun town. There's a lot to be fun here, but at the same time, it's also it's a big fit town, and this is where community matters.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to Austin, I start working at Orange Theory. I'm already in a community. I'm in, I work with a bunch of coaches who are passionate about fitness as well. They're my friends, and through them, I meet other people, and we have the members at the gym who are writing their own transformation stories. And I sunk my teeth, and went absolutely all in on the fitness scene in Austin. And so the community started to I started getting involved in community. And this is what's so important, especially in the trucking industry. And this is why I'm always talking about community. So getting involved in the community helped in so many ways. I got involved in the fitness community. I stayed networking and talking in the trucking industry. Then I go to broker care, I go to Mid-America Truck Show in 2024. And I go there and I leave and I'm absolutely fired up. There's people who know me from TikTok. I'm getting a lot of outside validation of people who've been seeing me over the years through the podcast, through social media. And people are looking at me in a way I haven't been looked at ever before in my life. I'm being looked at as a leader, so to speak. And I'm not trying to stroke my own ego. This is just the feedback I'm getting. When strangers are telling you, dude, I love what you're saying, and I love what you're doing, that's external validation. I didn't need that validation. I wasn't like out seeking it. Like I'm not out here vying for it, but it was given to me. And what that does to somebody, how that drives people. And I know that now from how I validate my members, by telling them that they have the power, telling them that they have the strength, and inspiring them. So I get that feedback. I come back from the Mid-America Truck Show. I'm so fired up. I was like, I've got to double down on who I am. I've got to double down on Lombard. Like that's what I have to do. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna lock in. I'm gonna do 75 hard. And for listeners who aren't familiar, 75 hard is a mental, fitness program developed by Andy Frisella, the founder of First Form, where for 75 days, you do 2 workouts per day, 45 minutes. One's got to be outside. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. A lot of my workouts were rucks, 45-minute rucks with a weighted vest. So 2 45-minute workouts a day, one's outside, a gallon of water each day. Take a progress photo, read 10 pages of a nonfiction, like self-help motivational book. The two workouts, the water, the photo, the 10 pages, and then there's no alcohol. And then I'm trying to think. I think that's all of them. I think that's all. And then you don't drink alcohol. And so I was going 75 days without it. I go to Broker Carrier Summit. So I go to Broker Carrier Summit. I'm a speaker there, giving my testimony and also the facts, tying in Project 61 here. The average life expectancy of the industry is 61 for truckers. So we're moving 16 years off the life. And I go through all the rates of chronic disease, the issues. I go talk about the London bus study, where we learned that, like, how we've always known that this is an issue, the sedentary lifestyle. And I come back from Broker Carrier. So I'm doing 75 hard at Broker Carrier Summit. And while I'm there, again, I'm thinking double down. That's when I got this idea of triathlon in my mind. Okay, I need to do hards. I need to get attention. I need to get clout if I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And if I'm really going to start change within the industry, when I went to Broker Carrier Summit, I've got to get the industry in on this. And so while I'm at Broker Carrier Summit, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm going to do triathlons, because this is a sport where I can get people to sponsor. I can get sponsors in on this. I can get people from within the industry and how I find it. So first, I talked to a bunch of people at Broker Carrier Summit, had a great conversation with Dawn from Green Screens. I told her, I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is the mission. I'm trying to get the industry in front of it and also be a part of it, saying that this is a problem. We won't stand for it. If you sponsor me in these endeavors for the rest of your company's entire career, nobody can ever look at you and say, we don't support truckers because we're sending this guy who's in support of this mission doing this, and we're sending him to these events and he's raising awareness for it. And people liked it. Like that's it. Dawn liked to hear that and came on board. And so like things started rolling forward. I signed up for my first triathlon. I do an Olympic distance here in Austin, Texas. From there, while I just finishing 75 hard. So, and I'll get to that. Actually, I'll get to that first. So do my first Olympic distance triathlon. I'm straight addicted. 75 hard ends in the middle of June. By the time it ends, I'm actually in Connecticut at home, and I dried out because I was doing so many workouts in the pool, everything. By the time it was over, at that point, I was in a calorie. Oh, you have to, part of the 75 hard, you have to follow a structured diet plan. So I was counting my macros. That's right. I had to leave that out. And at that point, all I wanted to do to celebrate was I'd been in a calorie deficit for so long. I was like, I kind of just want to eat. Like, I was like, I want to eat my calories. Like, and my parents had a cookout. It was my mom's birthday. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go in on some hot dogs. But I had just no desire to drink anymore. And people kept asking me, oh, when are you going to drink? What about this? I said, I'm going to kick the can down the road till July 4th. Like, I'll just, it's June. I'll go another couple of weeks. We'll see what we're doing July 4th. We'll wait till then. Well, during this time, I get in touch with Super Coffee, a better for you beverage brand in Austin. And they approach me and they want to sponsor me and what I'm doing because of this mission. And so I ended up having a sponsorship with them for 3 months, where they paid me for some paid advertising. Their name is still on my tri-suit. And I'm still friends with the founders of Super Coffee today. And we're looking to hopefully continue working together as they try to get their product into truck stops, because they're all in on this, removing added sugar from people's diets. So July 4th's coming around. And in my mind, I just got a sponsorship. I just got 2 sponsorships. All this good stuff has been happening to me from 75 hard, and I haven't been drinking. And is correlation causation at this point? I don't know. But for some reason, I go on this big, long gap without alcohol, and all these good things are happening. And July 4th comes around. At this point, I was already signed up for a 70.3 in Waco. So I have a half Ironman in Waco in October. So July 4th comes around. I have Friday off from work. And so, we're having a pool party, and it's like, I would rather wake up on the 5th of July and go for a 10-mile run, because I've got this half Ironman that's coming up in a few months. So like in my head, did I want to drink? Yes. But my desire to not want to, I started to outweigh it. I was like, I'd rather wake up early on the 5th and go for a 10-mile run, as opposed to waking up on the 5th at noon, feeling like garbage, and then feeling like garbage for upwards of 3 days after drinking, because that's what it became. And then I said, let's kick the can a little bit further. Like, I'll go till Labor Day or whatever. We'll see. And I did another small triathlon that summer. But in the summer of 2024, I went on 4 boats on Lake Travis, which is a huge party scene. Didn't drink for any of them. I went on one of those boats during 75 hard. I literally brought food with me. And then all of a sudden, I'm 6 weeks out from this half Ironman. And it's like, well, there's no point in drinking because I'm 6 weeks out from this triathlon. And now, mind you, I've done the Austin Marathon every year since 2022. I would take a break from New Year's Day to President's Day leading up to Austin Marathon for that, because I wanted to get ready for the race. But it's like all of a sudden the half Ironman in Waco comes. I run Waco. I'm 25th in my age group. First Ironman sanctioned event, half Ironman, 25th in my age group in Waco. It was a challenging race. Like, I saw people drop. There was bike crashes. And to be 25th in my age group, to me, that felt unprecedented. And then the gap between Waco and Ironman Florida was a month. So I had a month. So there was no point in drinking between Waco and Florida. Now, mind you, I had a busy schedule. I make content regularly. I was coaching full-time at the studio. I was head coach, so I was managing. So any time off I had, I coached on Sundays. So the days that felt normal to go out and drink, I sort of either gaslit myself. I couldn't do it because all my Saturday mornings were on bikes. I didn't make the time to drink. Like
Yeah.
I just like, because I had this mission in front of me and I had these races on my calendar, I had this drive, I took away every opportunity to drink because I was doing these things. And those things became more fun. And I started to feel better and better. I run Ironman Florida and people are like, hey, dude, you're a freaking Ironman now. Like, are you going to have a beer? I'm like, we're going to go till New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve comes around and it's just like, I want to wake up on New Year's Day. I'm going to, number one, I had to coach on New Year's Day. And then I want to go for a 10-mile run. Like that's what I want to do. And that's where my brain came. And coming into 2025, and then again, along the way, as I become an Ironman, I'm offered a job at Truck Parking Club to work in a role I've never worked in before for a very rapidly growing startup that also has a mission. And it has a founder whose mission is something that matters to me, and he cares about my mission in the same way. So all these good things happen. So we talk in March. So March through the end of 2024, life-changing events.
Yep.
Because Truck Parking Club for me, I mean, this is career move right here. Like I am in the trenches with this company. Like this is where I'm going to be for the very foreseeable future. And I'm talking years down the road. With what I'm trying to do, like life-changing stuff happened this year. I had a company that was on Shark Tank give me money, like paid content, paid advertising, never happened before. So I started taking a tally of all that, when I looked on New Year's Eve, 2024, I literally, for the first time, I was so emotional looking back. Normally, especially since I started trucking, I've been so eager for the next year. Like I would be always looking, I always went into, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It's like, man, I can't wait for next year. And for one of the first times, New Year's Eve, 2024, I remember literally crying to my wife saying, how am I going to top this? How can I even fathom topping 2024 and what had happened? And I look and you tally all the good that happened. Again, is correlation causation? I can't say so. There's plenty of people out there who probably still enjoy themselves, enjoy a couple beers and are successful. I get it. But what happened in my life is just it's unprecedented for me, because I'm somebody, again, you've heard where I grew up and kind of who I grew up from. I didn't come from any sort of money. I didn't have Lombard trucking wasn't handed down to me. I didn't, I wasn't fortunate enough to be blessed to continue Lombard trucking into the 21st century, but I can carry the name into the 21st century, which is what I'm trying to do. And so it's like, I didn't come for a guy like me coming out of, a high school in Waterbury and to have this kind of story, it's just like, well, what is, is alcohol serving me a purpose anymore? What is it doing? The energy I have, it is insane. Again, I say it all the time. Like I could run circles around 20, like the guy who's like the Mike Lombard of the Marine Corps. I could run absolute circles around that guy, how present I am in conversations, who I am as a friend, how I've shown up these past few years, just as I've slowly just built the gaps higher and higher between me and alcohol, the more good has started to happen. And it's just been insane. And it's like, I'm at the point to where, and, I was just at Broker Carrier Summit again, where, there was, late night karaoke. There was all this, there's all this stuff, but I led 2 group workouts on Wednesday and Thursday at that summit, so that was another reason to not drink. But at this point, I don't know whether I've just dried out from it, but do I still want to sometimes? There are still days where it'll be Saturday. Like right now, the weather in Austin is like Goldilocks, humidity's low. We're not at triple digits yet. On a Saturday, it is like that prime day drinking weather that like I used to really, really crave, especially back in college. And it's not, and there's some days where I'll get this little itch in my gut that's like, man, I'd love to go on a bike ride and just bump around to like the bars and like do that. But then my brain just flips a switch and it asks myself, well, but why? What is that really going to do? Like you could just have club soda or something. Like it doesn't. And again, I'm not, and I tell my Orange Theory members this a lot, people I coach, and I tell drivers this who I'm trying to help coach. I'm not saying you need to do this. I'm only just listing the benefits and what it's done for me.
Right.
And community matters. If you're around an environment that's going to constantly badger you for it and are really going to judge you, then number one, you got to ask yourself, are they really your friends?
Yep.
If they're only hanging out with you when you drink, are they actually, your friends, so to speak? I mean, that it's a kind of up for debate. Having a supportive environment certainly matters. If somebody is going to, and just to say, my dad was an alcoholic. He's had 2 DUIs. He quit drinking in 1993. And so, I mean, with him, yeah, so I know that the program, you're not supposed to be in an environment that is going to enable you to drink. Like you need to separate yourself. Same thing if you're somebody who uses drugs. Like you don't, if somebody gets out of prison who had a issue with drugs, you don't go and send them to live with people who are on drugs. If you're an alcoholic, probably not smart to live in the condo above a bar, so to
Sure.
speak. So environment definitely matters. And I've had a positive environment, like my wife who's been supportive, my friends here. But again, I've forced myself, but I've, number one, created myself and created a brand that is that it is becoming, or is already, the Nick Bear or the David Goggins of this industry. People are viewing me that way. So if they're going to view me that way, I'm going to set and lead by example.
Mhm.
And then my community here in Austin, like between Endorphins Running, between On It Gym, the Orange Theory Studios, that community, it's just, I'm going on Saturday 10-mile runs with them. I don't got time to get hungover on Friday. It's like who I've immersed myself with. And I'm at this point now where the idea of reintroducing alcohol into my life seems like it would be, I can't figure out what the point is. And I'm also at the point now where I'm such a, where, I feel bad because I'm, I wish, sometimes I feel like, am I losing my personality? Am I becoming the, Ben Stiller from Heavyweights? Like, is that who I'm becoming? And it's not. I'm still like, I'm Sarah Schilling. I'm still the same person I am. Like, I still got a sense of humor, sharing memes. I love, crap talking on Twitter and all that stuff. Like, I'm still like a fun person to be around. But the idea of reintroducing it, I'm at the point now where it's like, especially with all this endurance work between marathons and Ironman, like I'd rather eat my calories. Like I'd rather just eat them. But knowing now the health benefits of not using alcohol, like we know, and Jeremy at Broker Carry Summit showed me the proof in his Aura Ring, how alcohol, like it butchers your sleep. And
Mhm.
so, like you essentially, none of your sleep is worth anything when you consume alcohol. It's empty calories. So when you take it in, your body immediately ceases any sort of process, protein synthesis, the burning of calories for energy, and immediately starts removing the poison that you put in it. I mean, what it does for inflammation, your hormones, all testosterone, all this stuff. So it's a very, it's a high risk, low reward.
Right.
I think about it in essence of time. Like I can have 4 hours of fun, and it compounds. 4 hours of fun turns into a 3-day turnaround. You go out and drink the next morning. The next day is a complete wash. Like I feel like I get hit by a dump truck. The second day, still puffy, inflamed, might do something in regards to movement or exercise. And then the third day, the anxiety comes. So really, I think about 2024. I probably drank, and between January and March, I drank 5 times, so to speak. But and in 2023, I still probably only drank maybe 25 days out of the calendar year in 2023, if I really think about it, each time per month. But you have to do 25 times 3. And that
Right.
and you think about that. So that many days, 25 times 3, 75 days out of 365 that were just unproductive. Like they've done nothing for you. You weren't at your best. You might have been late for stuff. You didn't do what you want to do. You didn't get to do the things you want to do. You missed going to this event. You missed doing that. So it's really close to 80 days you've compounded that are not productive. And I don't see myself being successful unless I'm absolutely dialed like a Lamborghini 365 days a year. And that's just how it is. But I know I've gone off, so I'll let you. I'll take a breath for a moment. If there's
That's
anything you want.
okay. We're about to run out of time for the show, but you made a lot of really great points about the lifestyle changes and what they mean, and I can totally relate to the feeling of in my recovery, because I am an alcoholic. It's not just I like my life better without alcohol. It's that alcohol will eventually lead to my death, and I'm aware of that. So, but I get sober, right? And these things start happening in my life. The changes start happening. Like you said, just the physical part, like the energy, the puffiness, the getting back in the gym, like all of these wonderful things that make me feel better. And then I'm able to deal with life again. And then there comes this point where, you know, some people think, oh, I've got it, I can drink again, or like, great, I've, you know, cleaned up the mess that I've made, and I'm at a good point and I feel really good. So I'm going to go, I think I can handle it. And for me, I do evaluate that question every day. Is it worth it? And the answer is always, for me, no. You know, and I'm not as intensive an athlete. I do Spartan races. That's my thing. You know, and I just couldn't imagine what my life would be like if I started reintroducing these old habits that didn't serve the future that I'm building for myself, that didn't serve the life that I'm currently living, that are building blocks to what I'm going towards. And that is ultimately the mindset shift that happens for an addict that is really working, not just like one type of program, but is really working their recovery in a way that is sustainable, right? Like not just abstaining from something because I feel like I should. That wouldn't have gotten you very far in your goals. I feel like I should. It's because you were working towards something, and you had these like memories and these benchmarks to draw from and say, what am I really weighing here?
Bingo. And I mean, to touch on your point when it comes to, because I was, you know, wondering if somebody's an alcoholic or not by the science terms, like, you know, the questions you get asked by a doctor, like how many like when you, on average, when you drink, how many drinks do you consume? Like 1 to 2, 2 to 4. The thing is, I'm a Busch Light guy, greatest beer there ever was. You know, anybody who says otherwise is a liar. Like, and so the thing is, like when it comes to me drinking, like it's not that I was all or nothing, but I wasn't just like, I'm not a 1 or 2. I was never a 1 or 2 guy. Like if I'm going to drink, I want to feel the effects of the purpose of that beverage. Because if I'm just having 3 beers, and I think that even now, but I was even thinking this over the past several years. It's just like, if I'm going to have 3 beers, like what's the point? I just drank, you know, 500-600 calories. Like what was the point of consuming that? It's like, you know, because it doesn't taste better than, you know, Rambler Club Soda or whatever. It doesn't taste better than Diet Coke. Like, so it's like, so if I'm going to drink, I commit to the bit. And, you know, so that's why reintroducing it at this point, it's just like, I don't care about enjoying wine. And it's like, and I like bourbon too, but it's like, but I like 10-mile runs more than I like to enjoy the taste of one sip of, you know, bourbon made somewhere in Kentucky. It's like, do I feel bad because, you know, an American industry is losing sales from an individual? Yeah, maybe. Is it better for the economy that I don't drink? I don't know. That's up for debate. But
one person's not going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, one person's not going to matter. But when it comes to drinking, like, I'm not like anybody who is a 1 or 2 guy. I'll salute. Like, cheers to you. But it's like, if I'm going to do it, like, I want to do what this drink was made for, and I'm going to feel it. And it's like, so reintroducing it doesn't just mean, oh, I'll have a beer or 2 at dinner. It means, oh, I'm going to cop a buzz. Like, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to feel good. And I don't see a value. And there's just no value in it anymore.
Yeah. And I get that, right? Like I totally know what it is. But like I said, I know that I'm an alcoholic. I'm never going to have 1 or 2. And even the fact that I have to think about how many I'm going to have, and I plan that out, that's not normal thinking. And I didn't realize that wasn't normal thinking until somebody said something about it, you know, and the doctor's forms, I would find myself lying. Like if I really did the math in my head and was like, okay, like then the range that I would need is not on the paper. And that may be another tell for me personally. But yeah, when we're having to pay, when it takes so much brain space to drink, to just do a thing, in my opinion, it's like, okay, I'm giving this a lot of attention. I feel like I'm having to really think about it. I'm having to plan it out. And if it's not adding up to something good, like if I'm doing that for my meals, it's different, right? I'm at the grocery store, I'm thinking about it, I'm planning it out. I know I'm gonna have like salmon for this, I'm gonna have beef for that. And now I know what I'm gonna need and how I'm gonna consume it. And I know for my body, like what is too much. And with alcohol, I did not know what was too much. I knew that I was changing the way that I felt, and that's what mattered to me. And I would encourage anybody that is approaching alcohol in that way, where they're having to plan it out and really make decisions about their lives around how they're going to drink, to evaluate, like, is it serving where you are in the goals that you're trying to meet?
Absolutely. And I know we are running out of time, but I'd love to just close, with just a little bit more of the testimony of, and I tell people this, and I kind of, glossed over it, but if I don't lock in the way I did, and we have to look at, my entire weight loss journey again. So from 6 years, from 2018 to 2024, I was able to lose 100 pounds. And these were,
It's amazing.
and this started off small. This started off simply by just incorporating daily movement. And then it turned into my meals at home were cooked. It was a small habit built over time that compounded each way. But what I like to tell people, and what I was just talking to a driver about this yesterday, if I didn't lock in on what I did in 2018, if I didn't start in 2018, and if I didn't absolutely decide to double down like I did in 2024, because that's the thing. Like, yeah, I ran 5 marathons as a trucker. That's locked in. It's definitely, you have to be locked in to do that. But when I really like took the video game controller and leaned in, like that meme, like, when you're like, like when I really got in and I said and committed to like doing 75 hard, by doubling down on myself and going all in on this stuff, going all in on this fitness stuff. You and I are not having this conversation. I'm not working at Truck Parking Club. I don't have a podcast at all. So, even though the podcast started several years ago, I don't have the conversation. I don't speak in these arenas with these people. I'm not on stage presenting to people. Like, I don't, because in 2017, 2018, I didn't talk this way. And I had a gentleman at Broker Carrier Summit tell me, and he's a great guy, fellow veteran. He's like, he said, dude, you're not even the same guy you were 2 years ago. He goes, it's crazy because you were awesome then. And I just can't believe just how you are, how you speak, how you present yourself. It's unreal. And so this idea of reinventing myself, but the decision to go all in and lock in on this has put me, again, I'm not a millionaire, unlike all the, what the internet might, show from people who've made it, so to speak. Like, I haven't made it. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not rich. I don't own a business. I'm not a tech guy. I don't have fancy cars or whatever. Like, I live a pretty, humble sort of life. It's like, I haven't made it, so to speak, but I'm in the arena. Like, I'm on a good path that is setting my entire family up for the future. With like the conversations I have, who I am as a friend, people want to rely on me. People want me around. They want me involved in what they have going on. So much so that I got the phone call from Evan and Reed, and it had everything to do with betting on myself and locking in. And for anybody out there who's listening, just know that that's the only, the cost of locking in is nothing but you'll never regret it. You will never regret if you lock in on this and you dial in a fitness plan, a goal, you put something on your calendar, you stop drinking for 6 months, you want to do something. If you commit to that bit, you will never look back and regret it. Period. There's no way there's no way to lose. It would be impossible to lose if you go all in.
Right. And I think a couple of things you said that are really important, and that's starting with those small but consistent changes matter. They matter so much. And that's going back to the very beginning of the episode where you said people want these like fast results in their life. We may see some of that on social media, but that is not normal. It's not sustainable. When it comes to, because I also had a little bit of a weight loss journey for myself. And a lot of that happened when I stopped drinking and a very unhealthy relationship with food, to the point where I was like, then I became severely like underweight. And so finding that balance was really important for me. And there are these little mantras that I have where I try to eat 4 colors a day. That works for me. That works for me very well. That makes food fun for me. It's very, it is something that is repeatable, and it doesn't really matter like where I am, I can make that happen for myself. And then, to your point about like, you'll never regret it. I would say saying that you haven't made it yet might not be doing yourself a service, because if you were to interview yourself from 3 years ago, 2022, Mike, and say all the things that have happened, be like, man, we've made it. Like my life is so different. And I think our versions of success are allowed to evolve. I don't know that I would ever want to be a millionaire. I love my life. I love that I grow my own like vegetables and herbs outside. I love that one of my goals is to have, farm animals like that. It's very different of what making it really looks like, but taking care of your body, modeling that to the people around you, showing up for your friends and family in a way that can be impactful. I mean, not everybody can say that. They just simply can't. And so I applaud your your dedication to it, but also the tenacity to keep going and to spread the message, because these kind of conversations, this kind of enthusiasm, like, it can be done. Here are my results. And no, it didn't happen overnight, but look at the journey. And if this is my journey, I bet that you have a journey too. I think that's important.
And it doesn't require giving anything up. Again, I still go on boats on Lake Travis. I went to ACL the past 2 years. I've done all this stuff, but
You
at the
can have
same,
fun.
but I've still done two full distance Ironmans in 6 months. It can be done. And literally the only sacrifice, there hasn't been a sacrifice, because like, I've kept it fun. I made sure to make it fun along the way.
Yes.
It has everything to do with community. Like, you can have both, but it's just, how bad do you really want it,
Right.
is a question that comes in the end. You could still do it. And again, the tenacity, like, I am full bore ahead on it. The only reason I want and the reason I mentioned that about money, the only reason I want more money now is so I could just do more races.
Sure.
But again, I don't know if I'm going to make that money. That's why I'm trying to get the industry in on it, so they could send me to these races, so then the industry can have the athlete it deserves, to spread the word about this mission and keep it going.
Yeah, and I think that's incredible. So we are at the end of our time on the show together. This has been so phenomenal. I think I would love to have you back with Jeremy and Mark and just have a little discussion about nutrition and the long-term benefits of that. So for anybody listening, we will be hearing from Mike again.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back and keep the dry conversations going. Jeremy, Mark, and myself, we're doing some stuff with Next Gen and trucking to really try to drive this change too, that we've been working on, especially when it comes to newer people coming to the industry. So there's definitely a lot. We can have a fire conversation
Yeah.
coming on board.
And if people have questions about what you're doing, if they want to get involved, if they want to support you, how can people contact you?
Absolutely. I'm on all social media platforms as Lombard Trucking, the Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the whole board. You can email me at mike@lombardtrucking.com as well. I do offer some one-on-one coaching. So if you're a logistics professional, truck driver out there who's looking for a guy to help be that coach, the same type of coach that I had in 2018, I would love to be that guy for you. It's affordable. I've set it up that way. It's a program. I think it'll follow you along the same guidelines and set you up for success. So I'm available in more ways than one, and I hope to be a resource for the industry for decades to come.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, and to everybody else, we'll see you next time.